Today we're going to go over cleaning out and maintaining your wood stove and some items that will help make that job a little easier in the future. So starting off, first thing you want to do is scrape all the ashes out of your firebox. Be sure to scrape the sides and the top, get any creosote deposits that may have formed cleaned out of there as well. To do that, you're simply going to use a metal ash shovel and a metal ash bucket. Now something else that helps is an ash vacuum, and that's a vacuum specifically designed to vacuum out wood stoves and fireboxes, fireplaces, things like that. So here we have my ash vacuum. This is a Powersmith model, has a metal canister, and then inside of here it has a fire retardant bag. Not only does that obviously prevent fire, but it also is filtered so that it can clean up that fine ash that accumulates in your firebox. A regular vacuum, if you try vacuuming up ash with it, it's going to blow a cloud all over. These vacuums are specifically designed for this. So once you have your firebox all cleaned out real well, you want to inspect your fire bricks. All modern wood stoves have fire bricks inside. Check those out, inspect them, replace any that are cracked or broken. Now your fire bricks are a standard 4.5 inches wide by 9 inches long, 1.25 inches thick. If you would need to cut any down to fit in the stove, your stove might not be exactly 4 bricks long, so to speak. You can do that with a 4.5 inch angle grinder with a masonry wheel or a diamond tipped wheel. And I'll show you that right now. So here I have my firebox all cleaned out. All the broken bricks have been replaced. Right here's an example of where I had to trim one to fit around my plug. I pull that out and push the ashes down into the ash bucket down below. So once you have your firebox all cleaned out, bricks all inspected, and any broken ones replaced, next thing we're going to do is inspect and clean out the stovepipe that runs from the stove to the chimney. Take that all apart, clean that out real well. Every so often that will need replaced, so don't be afraid to do that. This is the year for mine to be replaced. You'll definitely know it needs replaced when you start seeing pinholes forming in the metal, preferably before you get to that point. So here I have new stovepipe I'm going to be putting together today. When you get the pipe, it's going to have a seam that's going to need assembled. To assemble that seam, simply make a heart shape with it. One side will fit into the other, and then you pop it back out and it'll lock in. Now for this section of pipe that runs through my wall, I need it crimped on both ends. When you buy this pipe, it's only crimped on one end. Any supply shop will have a crimper. They can crimp the other end for you. Make sure you have an 1.5 inches crimped. You need 1.5 inches overlap on all of your seams of your stovepipe. So now I'm going to go ahead and get this all assembled and get my new stovepipe hooked up. So when assembling your pipe, make sure you have an 1.5 inches overlap again at every seam, and then also a minimum of 3 screws on each seam. And you're just going to be using small self-tapping screws to assemble this, and you can also get these at your supply store where you buy your pipe. Something else to mention, all of your crimped ends are going to go towards the stove. All your male ends face towards the stove. That way if any ash or condensation comes down through the chimney, it stays in the chimney. Okay, so some other things to mention with the stovepipe. Again, 1.5 inches overlap, 3 screws per joint. All male joints or crimped ends are facing towards the stove, so any sediment and ash that falls in the chimney stays in the stovepipe. Something else is you want to avoid horizontal runs. Instead of going up and over, if you can go to 45 like you see here, that's the preferred method. It's going to give you better flow and help keep your creosote levels down because the chimney will be able to keep a nice draft going. So the next step now is cleaning out your actual chimney. And it doesn't matter what order you do this in. You could have cleaned the chimney first, then the stovepipe, then the stove. Doesn't matter. But at any rate, in my process, next is the actual chimney pipe. Now, I put a new metal roof on this year, and I've got several inches of snow on my roof, so that is not happening. But I'm going to go over how I would do that. Now, I already took a little camera in there and inspected my chimney, so I know it's okay. But I do want to go over how I would do that. You get your appropriate size brush. For me, it's a 6-inch stainless steel liner, so I use a 6-inch cleaning brush. Now, ordinarily, you would have rods that you attach to this, shove it down through, connect the next rod, shove it down through, etc. I have an easier method I like to use. I tie a nice 1/2-inch manila rope on the end, and then I also, so not only do I have a nice good knot on the brush, but then I also put a cable clamp on here. You don't want to lose this in the chimney. You don't want to get it stuck. So a lot of good knots and a cable clamp. At the other end, I put a nice heavy steel pipe wrench on here. I drop this down through the chimney, and if you would hit any obstructions, you can kind of bounce this around until it punches through. I then lower this all the way down to the bottom until I hit my clean out in the basement here. Then I simply pull the rope, pulling the brush down through the chimney. With the products I'm going to mention here in a little bit, I usually have to run my brush once, twice at most. Every 6 months is all I need to clean this out. I have some products that keep the creosote levels very, very low. But it's a lot easier to pull the brush down through than to try and shove it down through from up top while you're balancing on your roof, balancing on a ladder, whatever. So that's my preferred method. Now, in inspecting your chimney, it's not always the best way to just stick a light in there, take a picture with your phone, and then inspect it. You can still have a very large creosote deposit in there. When you're looking for light above from down below, it could look like the chimney's fully open, and it might only be a hole the size of a quarter. So not the safest method for inspecting it. Better to put a light in there and look from above, or use an actual like bore scope camera. Also, something else I would like to mention, I almost forgot to mention, is another way you can tell if you have an obstruction in your chimney. If you just reach in there with a camera, take a picture, and you see daylight and you think it's clear, once you get your fire going, if you open up that door and you have smoke billowing out, you're not getting the proper flow, you have an obstruction in your chimney. Again, looking from below up, it can appear fully open and it might only be the size of a quarter. Better to look from top down. So that's all there is to cleaning out your actual chimney. Next thing you want to do in this process is inspect your fire door seal. If this door is not closing tightly, this one is very loose, there are ways of tightening up your door. If you look in your manual to your wood stove, you'll see how to do that with your particular model. Mine is just worn out and needs replaced. I'm actually going to put that in a separate video. So I'll put a link to that at the end of this video on how to replace this door seal. So now a few products I want to mention that will help keep your stove clean and make your next cleaning a lot easier. And these are just products I've used for years and I love them and swear by them. If you do make any purchases through links in my description, I do get a small commission, but I'm telling you, these are products I love. I'm not just throwing these on there to make a buck. But the first one is Rutland's Creosote Remover. This stuff works awesome. You put a scoop of this in every 2 to 3 days and it will keep your creosote levels very, very low. Next thing you want to do is get yourself a thermometer for your stovepipe, and this will get placed 18 inches up from the stove, and it gives you right there, and there's several different models, you can get any one you like, but it'll show you the burn zone. If you're not burning your fire hot enough, you're going to get creosote deposits. So I know from previous installs, 18 inches on my pipe is right about there. Next thing you can do is get yourself a wood moisture measure. And I don't know if this is going to show up in a video very well, but this will measure the moisture content of your wood. If you're burning wood that's too wet, that's also going to give you major creosote deposits. And again, there's several different models of these. I'll just put a link in the description and you can go from there and check out what different ones are available. So again, that's all there is to maintaining and cleaning out your wood stove. And if you have access to your chimney, you can get up there safely. You can save yourself a ton of money doing all of this yourself rather than paying a chimney sweep a few $100s. So as always, I really appreciate your support and I thank you for watching. Take care.